The inaugural meeting of U.S. President Donald Trump's Board of Peace is set to take place in Washington in the coming hours, with the aim of rebuilding Gaza following the Israel-Hamas war. But the gathering comes amid a fragile ceasefire and growing global skepticism over the board's goals. Around 24 world leaders and other senior officials have arrived in the U.S. for the meeting. Mr. Trump is set to announce a multi-billion-dollar pledge by member states for reconstruction and humanitarian efforts in Gaza. An international stabilization force is also likely to be discussed. Indonesia has emerged as a key player and is the only country so far offering a firm commitment. The Muslim-majority nation says it could send up to 8,000 troops to Gaza. The board was set up as part of the U.S. president's 20-point peace plan. Some allies are concerned Mr. Trump is trying to create a rival to the United Nations. But Kate Fisher is covering this story for CNA from Washington, as well as CNA senior correspondent Saifulbahri Ismail, who joins us live from Jakarta. But first to Kate. Now, what can we expect from the gathering of leaders as they enter what the U.S. is calling phase 2 of the plan?
Well, there haven't been that many details released so far about the form of this meeting or indeed what the board intends to announce. We know that it's going to start in a couple of hours' time and that the US president will be there, and there will be representatives from around 40 countries, but not all of them are sending their leaders. Some are sending lower officials like foreign ministers, and there is concern that there are also not necessarily all of the US's closest allies being represented there. Countries that will be there in force are Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Belarus, Hungary, for example, and several Middle Eastern countries as well. From reporting ahead of this, we understand that each representative of the country will have around 2 minutes to speak, and Donald Trump may ask questions of them. They intend to cover the security situation, the humanitarian situation, and the setting up of this Palestinian technocratic committee that the board wants to see running Gaza. There is also, Donald Trump's announced $5 billion already pledged for reconstruction of Gaza, but that is a tiny fraction of the around $70 billion that is actually needed to clear the rubble on the Gaza Strip and to truly rebuild the enclave.
Well, the board is planning to tackle difficult issues at a very difficult time. So talk to us about some of the key challenges they might encounter.
Yeah, well, one of them is what I just kind of outlined there, is the fact that not every country in the world is on board with this. Many of the US's close traditional allies in Europe, for example, have not signed on. They're concerned about the fact that Russia is a member. There's also the fact that many of these countries that have indicated they want to be members, it costs $1 billion to join, and it's not clear in order to become a permanent member, and it's not clear whether all of these countries are prepared or even able to spend that kind of money. There is also concern from some international analysts that this is kind of a counterweight to the United Nations. It's a challenge to the United Nations. And some countries are wary of supporting an alternative international body when doing what the United Nations is supposed to be doing. And the concern is that it will dilute global leadership and make it harder for things to be achieved when it comes to peacemaking. There are others, though, that say that the UN isn't that efficient right now, and perhaps it is the kind of person like Donald Trump, with his strength of personality and his international influence, particularly on countries like Israel. Maybe it is somebody like him that can actually get something done. So there is skepticism on both sides. But as I said, at the moment, the details of what this board will actually do are yet unclear, and we hope in a couple of hours to be much more enlightened.
All right, thank you. Let's move straight away to Jakarta, where Saiful is standing by. Saiful, you heard Kate there, but one country that has confirmed its contribution is Indonesia. How is the Indonesian government positioning itself within the board, and what can it bring to the table?
Well, Jill, Indonesia is expected to use its unique position as the world's largest Muslim-majority democracy to strongly advocate for Palestinian sovereignty and humanitarian reconstruction. President Prabowo Subianto is bringing several key commitments to the table. Indonesia has signaled it's prepared to deploy up to 8,000 troops to Gaza as part of a proposed international stabilization force. These troops would focus strictly on non-combat roles, including medical services, reconstruction support and training for Palestinian police. Indonesia's defense ministry said about 1,000 personnel are scheduled to be ready for departure as an advance team by this April, and the full contingent is expected to be fully prepared for deployment by June. Jakarta also wants to position itself as what officials describe as the conscience of the board, ensuring that the mission remains centered on Palestinian independence rather than becoming a purely transactional or political exercise. Indonesia has said it will immediately withdraw from the Board of Peace if the initiative fails to advance Palestinian independence or proves harmful to the people of Gaza. When it comes to Gaza's reconstruction, Indonesia is expected to push for the restoration of civil governance, immediate humanitarian access, and rebuilding efforts that adhere strictly to international law.
Keterlibatan Indonesia di dalam BOP ini ada latar belakangnya yang berkaitan dengan proses untuk mendukung perdamaian di Palestina dan berdasarkan pada resolusi Dewan Keamanan. Artinya, interpretasi kita terhadap keterlibatan Indonesia ini perlu dimaknai dalam konteks tersebut, sehingga peran-peran yang akan dilakukan pun tidak akan berubah dari prinsip-prinsip tersebut.
Now, on the financial front, Mr. Prabowo is expected to outline Indonesia's potential contribution to secure a permanent seat and greater influence within the board. Jakarta is considering a $1 billion commitment, which could be reallocated from part of its national defense budget.
Now, if I could touch on a different issue, Saiful, because President Prabowo and President Trump are expanding their agenda with each other to meet to sign their tariff pact. Now, is there any room for Indonesia to get some kind of last-minute improved deal with Washington?
Well, Jill, that's clearly something Indonesia is hoping to achieve. Last July, the United States agreed to lower the reciprocal tariff on Indonesian products from 32% to 19%. Since then, officials in Jakarta have been working to secure a further reduction. Presidential spokesperson Prasetyo Hadi said yesterday that Indonesia is now aiming for an 18% rate, matching recent deals other countries have reached with Washington, including India. Indonesian officials believe that this is possible, especially given what they describe as the strong working relationship between the two leaders. In fact, ahead of President Prabowo Subianto's meeting with President Donald Trump, Indonesian and U.S. companies signed agreements worth more than $38 billion. Indonesia's active support for President Trump's Board of Peace initiative could also help strengthen its case for improved market access. Some observers see Jakarta's early alignment could reduce the risk of harsher trade measures and protect Indonesia's export competitiveness.
All right, we'll leave it there for now. My thanks to you, Kate Fisher, reporting for CNA from Washington, D.C., and to CNA's senior correspondent, Saifulbahri Ismail, who is live from Jakarta.